Ravens wide receiver Rashod Bateman's days in Baltimore appear to be numbered. With that in mind, we will break down the top potential replacement options for Bateman here on this edition of Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here. Appreciate you joining us. Before we set the scene and go over the names that we have for you, I need you to make sure you're subscribed to Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. We are closing in on 15,500 subscribers here on the channel, just a little over 100 away from reaching that next milestone. And want to make sure that you are a part of the latest happenings here at your favorite team. We're talking daily news and rumors. We're getting ready for the draft, free agency, trades, and more. We are your Baltimore Ravens headquarters. Subscribe now for free, and we'll get started with today's show. Now, when it comes to Rashod Bateman, I know what some of you are thinking. Like, hey, he's entering the final year of his rookie contract. Isn't it likely that he stays at least for this year? And that very well may be the case. But I think all of us can agree one way or another, whether it's this offseason or next, Rashod Bateman's time is coming to an end. The Ravens could cut him now and try to save a few dollars for when they try to spend to keep other players or for their upcoming draft picks, or just let him walk at the end of next year. One of the two. The Ravens need to start thinking about the future beyond Rashod Bateman, preparing accordingly to find his replacement. SI Ravens Country had this to say recently about Rashod Bateman and his future with the organization. One position that needs an upgrade is wide receiver, where Rashod Bateman has disappointed. Standing over 6 feet tall and coming out of Minnesota, where he was a dominant receiver, many expected that Bateman was going to become Jackson's top receiver. But after 3 seasons, he's failed to live up to the high hopes the organization had for him when he was drafted in the first round back in 2021. So, what have the Ravens gotten out of Rashod Bateman? Well, he hasn't had a single season with over 516 yards and more than 2 touchdowns. Remember, his second season after Marquise Brown left town, it was expected that Rashod Bateman was going to step into that number one receiver role, but he's also struggled to stay healthy as well. This is somebody that's only played in a 3-year stretch in 34 games and only has gotten 21 career starts in that stretch as well. And not to mention, even this past year, when he was available for the most part, he still got passed up on the depth chart by a rookie in Zay Flowers, OBJ, even Nelson Aguilar to some extent. So what are you really getting out of Rashod Bateman? These are the results that we saw from Rashod Bateman in 2023 and really just left a lot to be desired. Only 32 catches, 361 yards, and 1 touchdown. It's been disappointing for all the high hopes they had for a guy with his potential there with a former first-round pick. Let's ask you, our pinned comment today. Should the Ravens cut Rashod Bateman right now? I can't imagine anybody's going to be wanting to trade for Rashod Bateman. What do you guys think? Answer our pinned comment today. C for cut, K for keep, if it is time to move on from Rashod Bateman or not. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose 2 or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less and all sorts of categories to choose from in various different leagues, from fantasy points to yardage to assists in basketball, all sorts of different things in different leagues from the NBA, NHL, golf, NASCAR, all sorts of stuff beyond just the NFL. And I'm looking ahead to this weekend, the Daytona 500, the great American race. Let's go racing, baby. Here's what I got. I got Tyler Reddick, who won the Duel at Daytona on Thursday night to have more than 20 and a half fantasy points. I think he could do that. And then Bubba Wallace. I know everybody loves Bubba Wallace. Going with more than 45 and a half fantasy points. He's one of the best drivers at Daytona over the years. If both these hit, let's say we put $20 down, we're making $60 on Prize Picks, folks. Play along with me. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS for a $100 deposit match. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. Glad to have them on board here on today's show. Let's start with a player in the draft. Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver out of the University of Texas. The eyes of Texas were certainly upon Adonai Mitchell in 2023 as he was terrific as one of the best wideouts in the Big 12 Conference this past year. And of the players we're talking about today, I think this is the most likely one because he should be available when the Ravens pick at 30. So you're replacing him with a rookie for one, and a rookie contract and all that. So all of that works there. But then what he would potentially bring to the Ravens, it's a good match for what this offense is looking for. A functional route runner who's at his best with go routes, posts, and digs, good flexibility and body control. And the Ravens are looking for that vertical threat to this passing game, right? That's where Adonai Mitchell comes in. He can be that vertical threat if he gets in stride. And the guy's a touchdown machine. I would love to see him and Zay Flowers on the same team side by side. He's coming off a season where he had 11 touchdowns, 845 yards, 55 catches. I think Adonai Mitchell would be great to have along for this Baltimore Ravens team. What do you guys think? Should the Ravens draft Adonai Mitchell? Type D for draft, type P for pass. Let me know if you would like to see him in Baltimore or not. The next name on our list, a name very familiar to Baltimore Ravens fans. This would acquire a free agent signing, and that is Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, potentially making a return to Baltimore. Now, I know what you're thinking. He didn't really like his role in the Ravens offense when he was here the last go-round in the Greg Roman system. But the reality is that Brown would provide the deep threat that the Ravens need in the vertical passing game. And this Todd Monken offense is way different than the Greg Roman offense of old. There is a more need in the passing game, right? They are passing the ball more than they ever have before. And Brown, I think, would be in a much different situation. Not to mention, things didn't go so well for him in Arizona, really, the last couple of seasons. That team has been a mess. I think he could come back to Baltimore and be humbled a little bit and be a part, have a significant role that would fit him, unlike what we saw in the previous regime. You look at the consistency here. He's had at least 574 yards and 3 touchdowns in every season. He's got that long speed, creates the additional separation that the Ravens could be looking for. I'd be open to a potential return for Marquise Brown, bringing him back to this team. And as a free agent, you got a first-round pick out of him last time in a trade. He's coming off a year where, let's just face it, like, it wasn't great. 51 catches, 574 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But you get him in this scheme with a real franchise quarterback in Lamar Jackson again. I think Marquise Brown could be something special. I mean, he had his best years here in Baltimore in a system that he didn't even really like before. So, what do you think? Homecoming? Should the Ravens bring back Marquise Brown? Y for yes, N for no. Weigh in, tell me what you think if you'd like to see Hollywood make his return. Let's bring up another college name. That's where we find Brian Thomas Jr., the wideout out of LSU. A lot has been made about his teammate Malik Neighbors, who's expected to be a top 8 pick in this April's draft. Brian Thomas Jr. made some noise himself. And we talk about this Ravens offense looking for a spark in the deep passing game. Brian Thomas could potentially be that. Now, why we have him third on this list is that the mock drafts are kind of all over the place. Some people think he could go as high as top 10. Others have him towards the end of the first round. So you might have to trade up if you really want Brian Thomas Jr. potentially. A great vertical threat. A very good yards after catch weapon. Stands very tall at 6'4". And his speed really just takes over with that ability to separate from defenders and has an awesome ball tracking ability as well on top of that. Brian Thomas Jr. could be a very good fit for what the Baltimore Ravens are looking for. If you want to talk numbers, oh man, these were fantastic last year. 68 catches for over 1,100 yards, 17 touchdowns. Brian Thomas Jr. was really good. Another name to watch, this guy expected to be available when the Ravens pick at 30. That is Keon Coleman, the wide receiver out of Florida State. And with Keon Coleman, if you were looking for a receiver to build in a lab that looks the part of an NFL wide receiver, Keon Coleman would be your guy. And if he can play to the potential of his body and his size, then his greatness at the next level is really just endless. He is built like a true X receiver. Good agility, good explosion for his size. He's tough to track and tackle, given that blend of size and speed. But the knock on him, of sorts, of why he's expected to be available at the end of the first round as opposed to the beginning of the first round when he looks like a top 10 talent on, when you when you scout him necessarily. The results show that he had peaks and valleys throughout the 2023 campaign. He looked fantastic against LSU week 1. He was the best player on the field that day. But his season kind of was up and down. Still finished, even with that said, 11 touchdowns, but less than 700 receiving yards there as well for Keon Coleman. Who is a receiver the Baltimore Ravens should add this offseason? Whether it's via the draft, trade, free agency, give me a name that you would like to see with the Baltimore Ravens in 2024. Weigh in, let us know. Last on our list, we find another veteran receiver that is expected to hit free agency, a name that Ravens fans are familiar with right here within the division. That is Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals. And think about this with Tyler Boyd. As far as translating and moving from one team to another here, he is in a crowded receiver room, right? When you're playing alongside Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all that, and yet he still has been very successful. And I think he would be a good fit for Lamar in this offense. Consistency, 3 straight seasons with at least 667 yards. Good size and frame, 6'2", 203. And what's been kind of the theme of the receivers we've been looking at today? Kind of fits this same thing we've been talking about. Ability to create a window through route polishing, over the middle toughness. We know Lamar likes to throw it towards the middle of the field here. Tyler Boyd would be nice. And you look at last year's numbers, okay? 67 catches, 667 yards. If I can get that out of Tyler Boyd, and I'm probably going to get a little bit more, honestly, because he's not having to, be in that crowded room like he was in Cincinnati. If I could even get that, I would take that, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Tyler Boyd would be nice for this Baltimore Ravens team. Appreciate you joining us here on Ravens Rundown. For the latest happenings on your favorite team, subscribe now for free. Lock us in, and we'll see you next time.